Greetings. We are live on both places now. Adjustment for the screen. That's wild. Pen. Hold on. Josh came, walked through the house, swinging my pen yesterday. Hold on. I forgot to bring it back in here. Hold on, y'all. Shalom, shalom, Mom, Auntie, Shayla, great rising. What beautiful people. It was cloudy. I could not see if the new moon showed. I'm going to check. I'm going to check the sightings from all across the world. See if anybody else spotted it. It was cloudy. I couldn't see anything. But I'm going to check. And if she showed, it will be verified in multiple places around the world. So I'm going to start with my searching to see, because they normally have it posted a few hours afterwards for people who can actually see, who had clear skies. So I will be doing that, and I will be letting y'all know tomorrow. If there were no reports from across the world, that means she didn't show. Right? And we got to keep watch tonight. All right. So, but if she did show, that means the Sabbath has also shifted. Although she didn't shift, it shifts on the Gregorian calendar, but the sky stays the same. She does her normal thing. Tiffany, peace and blessings. Okay, y'all. So we're going to check and make sure we stay on y'all's calendar. Christy, the Twabu. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. It is April the 13th, 2021, day 126 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, also known as the Old Testament. I don't really like that word too much. It's a misnomer. It's labeled inappropriate to me as I do my studies and stuff. Okay, girl. What? But of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 795, and that is right, the Sabbath days or the feast days, Sabbath days added in. They're all gone, Tootie. They're gone. Go ahead and close it. Go back upstairs, or unless you're gonna, nope, they're all gone. The last one was eaten last night. Go ahead and close that. Y'all eat them all up. Okay, y'all, so today we're going to be reading 1 Kings chapter 7, 8, and 9. Then we're going to hop over to the Legends of the Jews, so we can pick up with Daniel. Shalom, Demi, shalom, shalom. So let's go ahead and do the Shema. All right. Pull this out.
Well, I jacked them in the car.
Hey, listen. I know you put it there, but you and your brothers ate them up. Don't start all that this morning. You can keep quiet, or you can go upstairs. Your choice.
Mommy, Dad left the phone.
Okay, well, go plug it in for Dad. All right, y'all. The Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, and we're going to start at verse 3. Hop down, Bella. Calm your voice. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuah your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness. And it shall be our righteousness. One more time. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuah our God as he has commanded us. Okay, y'all, so let's go ahead and hop over to 1 Kings. All right, y'all. 1 Kings chapter 7. Solomon builds his palace. Solomon also built a palace for himself, and it took him 13 years to complete the construction. One of Solomon's buildings was called the Palace of the Forest of Lebanon. It was 150 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. There were 4 rows of cedar pillars, and great cedar beams rested on the pillars. The hall had a cedar roof. Above the beams on the pillars were 45 side rooms, arranged in 3 tiers of 15 each. On each end of the long hall were 3 rows of windows facing each other. All the doorways and doorposts had rectangular frames and were arranged in sets of 3 facing each other. Solomon also built the hall of pillars, which was 75 feet long and 45 feet wide. There was a porch in front, along with a canopy supported by pillars. Solomon also built the throne room, known as the Hall of Justice, where he sat to hear legal matters. It was paneled with cedar from floor to ceiling. Solomon's living quarters surrounded a courtyard behind this hall, and they were constructed the same way. He also built similar living quarters for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had married. And remember also, like right in between verse 7 and verse 8, where it says Solomon built a throne room, and then the verse 8 talks about his living quarters. In the Legends of the Jews, it kind of expounds on verse 7 a whole lot and tell you exactly what he built in the throne room and how his throne and his chair, his throne, how it was built and all the mechanics behind it, and how when he stood on the first step, it kind of gradually, through the mechanisms and how it was created with the animals, the gold animals, the lions and the eagles and stuff, it was almost like this escalator type thing, but each step kind of guided him to the next, So anybody, when they ransacked Jerusalem and they took over his throne and they stole that, it took a whole lot of people to move that throne. But when they got it to Babylon or wherever they took it to, when they tried to use it, all of them were hurt. They got some, I think one person, if I remember correctly, one of them died because he didn't understand how it worked. Everybody else got hurt really badly, even Nebuchadnezzar. It hurt him real good, right? But they had it, but nobody ever dared try to ascend it again, right? Because it was they didn't know how it worked, and they were completely afraid of it. Okay. Solomon also built the throne room known as the Hall of Justice, where he sat to hear legal matters. It was paneled with cedar from floor to ceiling. Solomon's living quarters surrounded a courtyard behind this hall, and they were constructed the same way. He also built similar living quarters for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had married. From foundation to eaves, all these buildings were built from huge blocks of high-quality stone, cut with saws and trimmed to exact measures on all sides. Some of the huge foundation stones were 15 feet long, and some were 12 feet long. The blocks of high-quality stone used in the walls were also cut to measure, and cedar beams were also used. The walls of the great courtyard were built so that there was one layer of cedar beams between every 3 layers of finished stone, just like the walls of the inner courtyard of Yahuah's temple with its entry room. King Solomon then asked for a man named Huram to come from Tyre. He was half Israelite, since his mother was a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father had been a craftsman in bronze from Tyre. Huram was extremely skillful and talented in any work in bronze, and he came to do all the metal work for King Solomon. Huram cast 2 bronze pillars, each 27 feet tall and 18 feet in circumference. For the tops of the pillars, he cast bronze capitals, each 7.5 feet tall. Each capital was decorated with 7 sets of lattice work and interwoven chains. He also encircled the lattice work with 2 rows of pomegranates to decorate the capitals over the pillars. The capitals on the columns inside the entry room were shaped like water lilies, and they were 6 feet tall. The capitals on the 2 pillars had 200 pomegranates in 2 rows around them, beside the rounded surface next to the lattice work. Huram set up pillars at the entrance of the temple, one toward the south and one toward the north. He named the one on the south Jachin and the one on the north Boaz. The capitals on the pillars were shaped like water lilies, and so the work on the pillars was finished. Then Huram cast a great round basin 15 feet across from rim to rim, called the sea. It was 7.5 feet deep and about 45 feet in circumference. It was encircled just below its rim by 2 rows of decorative gourds. There were about 6 gourds per foot all the way around, and they were cast as a part of the basin. The sea was placed on a base of 12 bronze oxen, all facing outward. 3 faced north, 3 faced west, 3 faced south, and 3 faced east, and the sea rested on them. The walls of the sea were about 3 inches thick, and its rim flared out like a cup and resembled a water lily blossom. It could hold about 11,000 gallons of water. Tootie, put that in the trash.
No, where is my candy?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't say they did. I didn't see them take it.
That's my candy.
Huram also made 10 bronze water carts, each 6 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 4.5 feet tall. They were constructed with side panels braced with crossbars. Both the panels and the crossbars were decorated with carved lions, oxen, and cherubim. Above and below the lions and oxen were wreath decorations. Each of these carts had 4 bronze wheels and bronze axles. They were supporting posts for the bronze basins at the corners of the carts. These supports were decorated on each side with carvings of wreaths. The top of each cart had a rounded frame for the basin. It projected 1.5 feet above the cart's top like a round pedestal, and its opening was 2 1/4 feet across it. It was decorated on the outside with carvings of wreaths. The panels of the carts were square, not round. Under the panels were 4 wheels that were connected to axles that had been cast as one unit with the cart. The wheels were 2 1/4 feet in diameter and were similar to chariot wheels. The axles, spokes, rims, and hubs were all cast from molten bronze. There were handles at each of the 4 corners of the carts, and these too were cast as one unit with the cart. Around the top of each cart was a rim 9 inches wide. The corner supports and side panels were cast as one unit with the cart. Carvings of cherubim, lions, and palm trees decorated the panels and corner supports wherever there was room, and there were wreaths all around. All 10 water carts were the same size and were made alike, for each was cast from the same mold. Huram also made 10 smaller bronze basins, one for each cart. Each basin was 6 feet across and could hold 220 gallons of water. He set 5 water carts on the south side of the temple and 5 on the north side. The great bronze basin called the sea, S-E-A, the sea, was placed near the southeast corner of the temple. He also made the necessary wash basins, shovels, and bowls. So at last, Huram completed everything King Solomon had assigned him to make for the temple of Yahuah. The 2 pillars, the 2 bowl-shaped capitals on top of the pillars, the 2 networks of interwoven chains that decorated the capitals, the 400 pomegranates that hung from the chains on the capitals, 2 rows of pomegranates for each of the 2 chain networks that decorated the capitals on top of the pillars, the 10 water carts holding the 10 basins, the sea, the S-E-A, the sea, and the 12 oxen under it, the ash buckets, the shovels, and the bowls. Hiram made all these things of burnished bronze for the temple of Yahuah, just as King Solomon had directed. The king had them cast in clay molds into the Jordan Valley between Succoth and Zarethan. Solomon did not weigh all these things because there were so many. The weight of the bronze could not be measured. Solomon also made all the furnishings for the temple of Yahuah, the gold altar, the gold table for the bread of the presence, the lampstand of solid gold, 5 on the south, 5 on the north, in front of the most holy place, the flower decorations, lamps, and tongues, all of gold, the small bowls, lamp snuffers, bowls, ladles, and incense burners, all of solid gold, the doors for the entrances to the most holy place, and the main room of the temple with their fronts overlaid with gold. So King Solomon finished all his work on the temple of Yahuah. Then he brought all the gifts his father David had dedicated, the silver, the gold, and the various articles, and he stored them in the treasuries of Yahuah's temple. That is some amazing architectural talent. We can see these gifts in some of our people today, and a lot of our people today, right? And not just our nation, in other nations as well. But some of these, imagine some of the old, if you ever watch like the History Channel, some of the old ruins that they come upon and how it seems like they're the carvings, based on what they teach you in school, it was like they all lived in caves and had bats beating each other across the head. They didn't know their right hand from their left. But history and ancient ruins and artifacts tells us differently. They were way more advanced than what we are today, right? So much more advanced that they built the pyramids, right? That's another whole conversation that kind of ties in to history and how they actually did that. But the History Channel, they ain't giving credit where credit is due. They just say aliens did this. I'm just like, everything they can't explain and everything that they don't want to give credit to Yahuah's people for, they blame it on outer space somewhere. That's the easiest thing because nobody can verify that. So let's blame it on the aliens. Outer space, there were visitors millions of years ago. And I'm like, you know what? Listen. 1 Kings chapter 8. Solomon then summoned to Jerusalem the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the ancestral families and of the Israelites. They were to bring the Ark of Yahuah's covenant to the temple from its location in the city of David, also known as Zion. So all the men of Israel assembled before King Solomon at the annual festival of shelters, which is also tents, booths, Sukkot. That's what time it was, okay? So all the men of Israel assembled before King Solomon at the annual festival of shelters, which is held in early autumn in the month of Ethanim. When all the elders of Israel arrived, the priests picked up the ark. The priests and the Levites brought up the ark of Yahuah along with the special tent and all of the sacred items that had been in it. There, before the ark, King Solomon and the entire community of Israel sacrificed so many sheep, goats, and cattle that no one could keep count. So remember, right? I'm going to keep repeating this. Remember when they're doing sacrifices, you need to exchange that word sacrifice for food, right? Because remember when they get together, I try to make this explanation as simple as possible, but still keeping it accurate. So when they bring the sheep, the goats, they may be repenting like this. Okay, so Yahuah set out these rules and regulations for his people, for the community. This is how y'all live when y'all come in my house. This is my land. You stay over here, here. You build your house right there. But listen, these are rules I got set out for my place, right? Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You do that, the land gonna continue to grow, flourish. Everybody gonna be fed. Y'all not gonna, it'll keep the fights down amongst one another. So But when y'all mess up, when y'all violate one of these rules and regulations, or today we'll call it sin, if you sin against me, against my commands, if you break one of my house rules, this is what's required of you, because I need you to feel it. Not just down in your shanana, down in your spirit. I need you to feel it in what you have. So I want you to bring me the best of your flock. And we're going to call this atoning for your sin. Bring the best of your flock. And we need to come in here. We need to have a come to your senses moment, right? But I need you to feel it in your pockets too, right? Because remember, this was their cattle, their sheep, their goats. It was a part of their wealth, right? Not just the money that they had, because Scripture, Yahuah talks about monetary money, that even when it talks about tithes, Yahuah always speaks of tithes as food. Matter of fact, he labels them side by side. You bring this, matter of fact, when they go up to Jerusalem, right, they should bring a tithe, or they should bring what they gonna eat, because what they sacrificed or what they slaughtered and cooked, it was always food, right? But you come, let's have a family meeting, but you providing the food today, son, or you're providing the food today, daughter. This is what you need to bring, right? And it always had to be the best. So if you going out here, you contemplating sin, you probably really need to think this through. Okay, so if I go out here and do this, I know at the very least it's going to cost me the very best of my flock. Sin, the best of my flock. See, Yahuah put these rules and regulations there to cause you to think, because when you sin or when you violate rules, when you violate his covenant, you violate him, you violate yourself, or you violate somebody else, it should hit you real deep, right? And it should shock you and break your state to make you think, I should not have done this, because it's actually, what I'm doing is not just hurting them, or I think I'm gratifying myself, but it's actually going to hurt my pockets, and it's going to hurt my family too, because especially if you got a family and they're eating and they're looking for the income that your flocks are bringing in. Now we got to give up our money maker because I did something foolish. It should make you think, right? So it's not like, oh, you sacrificing. No, it's wrong thinking. It's completely wrong thinking. Matter of fact, as we read it, it continues to tell us that it's food, right? The priests, when they came together to bring their offering or their sacrifice, Yahuah told him, he said, okay, so this is what you do. The priests were essentially like butchers, right? They're the meat carvers and stuff. They got all the utensils in the temple. They got a big kitchen, right? I know people don't think about this, but it's clear in plain language. So Yahuah said, okay, when you bring it in, okay, this is this, okay, all right. So while we're cooking, you need to tell, go ahead, while they're in the kitchen cooking, tell us what you did, son, or tell us what you did, daughter. Yep. Watch this. Your best, this was your big money maker? Oh, but you didn't think about this when you was out there sitting in the streets, huh? You knew the rules that this way you was going to bring it, so you must not have cared. Okay, well, we all going to eat. Thank you for this food we all about to receive for the nourishments of our bodies, right? And I know I added an extra S on one of them words. Don't kill them for your bonics, y'all, because some people, they don't get the humor and sarcasm. So Yahuah told him, he said, okay, so priest, house of Levi, when you slaughter these animals, you do it in the most humane way, right? And he said you do it this way. He said you don't drink the blood, you don't eat the fat. He said that belongs to me. Matter of fact, pour all that out. This is the way you do it. Keep everything clean. He said when you do this, this is where you clean the meat. This is why we have a habit of washing everything we get. It's in us. It's in us, right? Everything that Yahuah has taught his people is in us. Even the casting of lots. Y'all ever seen our brothers out there shooting dice? They casting lots. They don't even know it, but you can see the principles and the rules and regulations even being displayed ignorantly throughout our nation, right? When Yahuah began to show me that, I'm like, mind blown, right? So this is what you do when you sacrifice. You're literally you're essentially just shopping. You about ready to feed the priest and everybody else around, right? So after they clean it, Yahuah tell them how to cook it. Don't eat this part. Put that on the altar. Burn it up. Put that on the grill. Let that burn to complete ashes. Make that a burnt offering to me. Sweet savory. Yep. Right. And then what does he do? What does he say about the meat? That was just sacrifice. He said this piece belongs to the priest. This piece belongs here. You guys eat this. The rest belongs to you. We need to sit and talk about this. Okay, son, you should not have done this because you caused this, and don't do it again, right? Because you not only hurt yourself, did that. You know, it caused you to lose money out your pocket. Think about it. When you seeing you do something really bad, especially if you have a family, what tends to happen a lot of time, right? You get hit in your pocket. If you get to keep your life, there's some kind of fine or something you get. You possibly could lose your house, you possibly could lose your family, all of those things, all of those principles are there, and it's in plain English. But the way we've been taught it from other people who were not authorized to teach it teaches us a totally different thing, and we cannot make the connection, right? So I just wanted to bring it out, right? Okay, so remember, they up here at the Festival of Shelters. It's a feast, right? We get together on the appointed feast days. You look at these like you ever had family meetings. I grew up having family. My mom and dad had we had a weekly family meeting. All right, everybody come on together. Let's talk about what's going on in this house, who did what to who. Same thing. 3 times a year, we want everybody to come up. Daddy need to talk to everybody. Let's talk about what's been going on, family. You bring the food. We got the grills up here. Y'all bring some of y'all meat. Make sure everybody can, it's the same thing, right? I just want to say that just in case it slipped your memory or you really didn't understand. Okay. Go back. Verse 3. Let me just go back up to verse 2. Okay. I'm going to just start.
Let's open the back of cereal.
Okay. Go ahead and get some if you would like some, Titty. Solomon then summoned to Jerusalem the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the ancestral families of the Israelites. They were to bring the Ark of Yahuah's covenant to the temple from its location in the city of David, also known as Zion. So all the men of Israel assembled before King Solomon at the annual Festival of Shelters, which is held in early autumn in the month of Ethanim. When all the elders of Israel arrived, the priests picked up the ark. The priests and the Levites brought the Ark of Yahuah along with a special tent and all the sacred items that had been in it. There, before the Ark, King Solomon and the entire community of Israel sacrificed so many sheep and goats and cattle that no one could keep count. Then the priests carried the Ark of Yahuah's covenant into the inner sanctuary of the temple, the most holy place, and placed it beneath the wings of the cherubim. The cherubim spread their wings over the Ark, forming a canopy over the Ark and its carrying poles. These poles were so long that their ends could be seen from the holy place, which is in front of the most holy place, but not from the outside. They are still there to this day. Nothing was in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had placed in it at Sinai, where Yahuah made a covenant with the people of Israel when they left the land of Egypt. When the priests came out of the holy place, a thick cloud filled the temple of Yahuah. The priests could not continue their service because of the cloud, for the glorious presence of Yahuah filled the temple. Then Solomon prayed, "O Yah, you have said that you would live in a thick cloud of darkness. Now I have built a glorious temple for you, a place where you can live forever." Then the king turned around to the entire community of Israel, standing before him, and gave this blessing. "Praise Yahuah, the God of Israel, who has kept the promise he made to my father David. For he told my father, from the day I brought my people Israel out of Egypt, I have never chosen a city among any of the tribes of Israel as the place where a temple should be built to honor my name. But I have chosen David to be king over my people Israel." Cut that off. Cut it off.
No, I tried cleaning this off.
You cleaned it long enough, Tootie. And now,
Oh,
you want to go upstairs? Then put that in. Why would you grab a dirty one? Put it in there and get a clean one.
Mommy.
And now,
No more.
Yahuah has fulfilled the promise he made. For I have become king in my father's place, and now I sit on the throne of Israel, just as Yahuah has promised. I have built this temple to honor the name of Yahuah, the God of Israel, and I have prepared a place there for the ark, which contains the covenant that Yahuah made with our ancestors when he brought them out of Egypt. Then Solomon stood before the altar of Yahuah in front of the entire community of Israel. He lifted his hands toward heaven and prayed. Okay, let's do this. It's a long prayer. I'm going to hold my hands up. Okay. O Lord, God of Israel, there is no God like you in all of heaven above or on the earth below. You keep your covenant and show unfailing love to all who walk before you in wholehearted devotion. Wait a minute, Bella. You have kept your promise to your servant David, my father. You have made that promise with your own mouth, and with your own hands you have fulfilled it today. And now, O Lord, God of Israel, carry out the additional promise you made to your servant David, my father. For you said to him, if your descendants guard their behavior and faithfully follow me as you have done, one of them will always sit on the throne of Israel. Now, O God of Israel, fulfill this promise to your servant David, my father. But will Yahuah really live on earth? Why even the highest heavens cannot contain you, how much less this temple I have built. Nevertheless, listen to my prayer and my plea, O Lord my God. Hear the cry and prayer that your servant is making today. May you watch over this temple night and day, this place where you have said, my name will be there. May you always hear the prayers I make towards this place. May you hear the humble and earnest requests from me and your people Israel when we pray towards this place. Yes, hear us from heaven where you live, and when you hear, forgive. And if y'all didn't know, where this sun is setting is actually coming from the east. So if I'm turned this way, I'm actually facing the east towards Jerusalem, right? Yes, hear us from heaven where you live, and when you hear, forgive. If someone wrongs another person and is required to take an oath of innocence in front of your altar in this temple, then hear from heaven and judge between your servants, the accuser and the accused. Punish the guilty as they deserve. Acquit the innocent because of their innocence. If your people, Israel, are defeated by their enemies... Bella, pause. I see it. If your people Israel are defeated by their enemies because they have sinned against you, if they turn to you and acknowledge your name and pray to you here in this temple, then hear from heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel and return them to this land you gave to their ancestors. I got to slide the prayer up, y'all. I'm sorry. Hold on. If the skies are shut up and there is no rain because your people have sinned against you, and if they pray towards this temple and acknowledge your name and turn from their sins because you have punished them, then hear from heaven and forgive the sins of your servants, your people Israel. Teach them to follow the right path and send rain on your land that you have given to your people as their special possession. If there is a famine in the land, or a plague or crop disease, or attacks of locusts or caterpillars, or if your people's enemies are in the land besieging their towns, whatever disaster or disease there is, and if your people Israel pray about their troubles, raising their hands towards this temple, then hear from heaven where you live and forgive. Give your people what their actions deserve, for you alone know each human heart. Then they will fear you as long as they live in the land you gave to our ancestors. In the future, foreigners who do not belong to your people Israel will hear of you. They will come from distant lands because of your name, for they will hear of your great name and your strong hand and your powerful arm. And when they pray towards this temple, then hear from heaven where you live and grant what they ask of you. In this way, all of the people of the earth will come to know and fear you, just as your own people Israel do. They too will know that this temple I have built honors your name. If your people go out where you send them to fight their enemies, and if they pray to Yahuah by turning towards this city you have chosen and towards this temple I have built to honor your name, then hear their prayers from heaven and uphold their cause. If they sin against you, O Yah, and who has never sinned, you might become angry with them and let their enemies conquer them and take them captive to their land far away or near. But in that land of exile, they might turn to you in repentance and pray, we have sinned, done evil, and acted wickedly. If they turn to you with their whole heart and soul in the land of their enemies, and pray toward the land you gave their ancestors, towards this city you have chosen, and towards this temple I have built to honor your name, then hear their prayers and their petition. Whew, y'all, hold on. I'm getting choked up. Whew, okay. Thought I was going to be able to keep it together. Hold on. Whew. Father, help us. Okay. But in that land of exile, they might turn to you in repentance and pray. We have sinned, done evil, and acted wickedly. If they turn to you with their whole heart and soul, I can do this, y'all. Hold on. If they turn to you with their whole heart and soul in the land of their enemies, and pray toward the land you gave to their ancestors, towards this city you have chosen, and towards this temple I have built to honor your name, then hear their prayers and their petition from heaven where you live, and uphold their cause. Forgive your people who have sinned against you. Forgive all the offenses they have committed against you. Make their captors merciful to them, for they are your people, your special possession, whom you brought out of the iron smelting furnace of Egypt. May your eyes be open to my requests and to the requests of your people Israel. I'm going to finish this. May you hear and answer them whenever they cry out to you. For when you brought our ancestors out of Egypt, O sovereign Lord, you told your servant Moses that you had set Israel apart from all the nations of the earth to be your own special possession. Whew. When Solomon finished making these prayers and petitions to Yahuah, he stood up in front of the altar of Yahuah where he had been kneeling with his hands raised towards heaven. He stood and in a loud voice blessed the entire congregation of Israel. Praise Yahuah, who has given rest to his people Israel, just as he has promised. Not one word has failed of all the wonderful promises he gave through his servant Moses. May Yahuah our God be with us, just as he was with our ancestors, and may he never leave us or abandon us. May he give us the desire to do his will in everything and to obey all the commands, decrees, and regulations that he gave our ancestors. And may these words that I have prayed in the presence of Yahuah be before him constantly, day and night, so that Yahuah our God may give justice to me and to his people Israel according to each day's need. Then the people over all the earth will know that Yahuah is God alone and there is no other. And may you be completely faithful to Yahuah our God. May you always obey his decrees and commands, just as you are doing today. Then the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifices to Yahuah. Solomon offered to Yahuah a peace offering of 22,000 cattle and 120,000 sheep and goats. And so the king and all the people of Israel dedicated the temple to Yahuah. That same day, the king consecrated the central area of the courtyard in the front of Yahuah's temple. He offered burnt offerings, grain offerings, and the fat of peace offerings there, because the bronze altar in Yahuah's presence was too small to hold all the burnt offerings, grain offerings, and the fat of the peace offerings. Then Solomon and all of Israel celebrated the festival of shelters in the presence of Yahuah our God. A large congregation gathered from as far away as Lebo Hamath in the north and the brook of Egypt in the south. The celebration went on for 14 days in all, 7 days for the dedication of the altar, and 7 days for the festival of shelters. After the festival was over, Solomon sent the people home. They blessed the king and went to their homes joyful and glad, because Yahuah had been good to his servant David and his people Israel. Whew. Boy, I thought I was never going to get through that chapter, y'all. We still got one more. Okay, last chapter for today, y'all. 1 Kings chapter 9. So Solomon, excuse me. So Solomon finished building the temple of Yahuah, as well as the royal palace. He completed everything he planned to do. Then Yahuah appeared to Solomon a second time, as he had done before at Gibeon. Yahuah said to him, I have heard your prayer and your petition. I have set this temple apart to be holy. This place you have built where my name will be honored forever. I will always watch over it, for it is dear to my heart. So that prayer that Solomon just prayed, Yahuah is responding to him. I have heard your prayer and your petition. I have set this temple apart to be holy. This place you have built where my name will be honored forever. I will always watch over it, for it is dear to my heart. And for you, if you will follow me with integrity and godliness, as David your father did, obeying all my commands, decrees, and regulations, then I will establish the throne of your dynasty over Israel forever. For I made this promise to your father, David. One of your descendants will always sit on the throne of Israel. But if you or your descendants abandon me and disobey the commands and decrees I have given you, and if you serve and worship other gods, then I will uproot Israel from this land that I have given them. And clearly we know that's done because we are scattered, right? But if you or your descendants abandon me and disobey the commands and decrees I have given you, and if you serve and worship other gods, then I will uproot Israel from this land that I have given them. I will reject this temple that I made holy to honor my name. I will make Israel an object of mockery
Mom.
and ridicule among the
Guess what?
nations. Yes.
I can cut this open and for
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute too. Let me finish reading, okay? I will reject this temple that I have made holy to honor my name. I will make Israel an object of mockery and ridicule among the nations. And clearly we're living through that still today, right? And though this temple is impressive now, all who pass by will be appalled and gasp in horror. They will ask, why did Yahuah do such terrible things to this land and to this temple? And the answer will be, because his people abandoned Yahuah their God, who brought their ancestors out of Egypt, and they worshiped other gods instead and bowed down to them. This is why Yahuah has brought all these disasters on them. It took Solomon 20 years to build Yahuah's temple and his own royal palace. At the end of that time, he gave 20 towns in the land of Galilee to King Hiram of Tyre. Hiram had previously provided all the cedar and cypress timber and gold that Solomon had requested. But when Hiram came from Tyre to see the town Solomon had given, he was not at all pleased with him. What kind of towns are these, my brother? He asked. So Hiram called that area Kabul, which means worthless, as it is still known today. Nevertheless, Hiram paid Solomon 9,000 pounds of gold. This is the account of the forced labor that King Solomon conscripted to build Yahuah's temple, the royal palace, the supporting terraces, the wall of Jerusalem, and the cities of Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had attacked and captured Gezer, killing the Canaanite population and burning it down. He gave the city to his daughter as a wedding gift when she married Solomon. So Solomon rebuilt the city of Gezer. He also built up the towns of Lower Beth-horon, Baalath, and Tamar in the wilderness within his land. He built towns as supply centers and constructed towns where his chariots and horses could be stationed. He built everything he desired in Jerusalem and Lebanon and throughout his entire realm. There were still some people living in the land who were not Israelites, including Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These were the descendants of the nations whom the people of Israel had not completely destroyed. So Solomon conscripted them as slaves, and they served as forced labor to this day. But Solomon did not conscript any of the Israelites for forced labor. Instead, he assigned them to serve as fighting men, government officials, officers and captains in his army, commanders of his chariots and charioteers. Solomon appointed 550 of them to supervise the people working on his various projects. Solomon moved his wife, Pharaoh's daughter, from the city of David to the new palace he had built for her. Then he constructed the supporting terraces. 3 times each year, Solomon presented burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar he had built for Yahuah. He also burned incense to Yahuah, and so he finished the work of building the temple. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Geber, a port near Elath, in the land of Edom, along the shore of the Red Sea. Hiram sent experienced crews of sailors to sail the ships with Solomon's men. They sailed to Ophir and brought back to Solomon some 16 tons of gold. And let me also bring something out. Remember how we were reading in the Legends of the Jews when we were reading over this portion about King Solomon? Remember after he had got kicked out of his kingdom pretty much for some of his shenanigans he was doing and worshiping the other gods, or some of his concubines and stuff like that. It was when he was pretty much ejected out of his kingdom when he met the woman who would be his wife, which it says that this was the woman Yahuah had ordained to be his wife anyway, right? But along the way, Solomon picked up some hoes, right? And of course he did things for them, but his wife, the one Yahuah had chosen for him, this was her, the one who he had built the temple for, right? And she was the daughter of a pharaoh. So just in case you weren't able to put that together, that's her. And she ruled there right beside him, right? Okay. So that was that. So let's go ahead and hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. Where we at today? Ooh, we already at 46 minutes. Ooh, well, the prayer had to be done. All right, so we'll probably just be able to read this one section about... oh, no, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. What did I say at the beginning? I said Daniel. We read Daniel yesterday. I meant Ezekiel reviving the dead. Forgive me. I know I realized I said that at the beginning. We read Daniel yesterday and about the 3 Hebrew boys, but we're picking up about Ezekiel reviving the dead. So we are on page 480, volume 4, y'all. We about at the end of the book. So the section is entitled Ezekiel Revives the Dead. Okay. Among the dead whom Ezekiel restored to life, at that same time when the 3 men were redeemed from the fiery furnace, were different classes of persons. Some were Ephraimites that had perished in the attempt to escape from Egypt before Moses led the whole nation out of the land of bondage. Some were the godless among the Hebrews that had polluted the temple at Jerusalem with heathen rites, and those still more godless who in life had not believed in the resurrection of the dead. Others of those revived by Ezekiel were youths among the Hebrews carried away captive to Babylonia by Nebuchadnezzar, whose beauty was so radiant that it darkened the very splendor of the sun. The Babylonian women were seized with great passion for them, and at the solicitation of their husbands, Nebuchadnezzar ordered a bloody massacre of the handsome youths. But the Babylonian women were not yet cured of their unlawful passion. The beauty of the young Hebrews haunted them until their corpses lay crushed before them, their graceful bodies mutilated. These were the youths recalled to life by the prophet Ezekiel. Lastly, he revived some that had perished only a short time before. When Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were saved from death, Nebuchadnezzar thus addressed the other Hebrews, those who had yielded obedience to his command concerning the worship of the idol. You know that your God can help and save. Nevertheless, you paid worship to an idol which is incapable of doing anything. This proves that as you have destroyed your own land by your wicked deeds, so you are now trying to destroy my land with your iniquity. Forthwith he commanded that they all be executed, 60,000 in number. Ain't that something? King Nebuchadnezzar, tell them, well, when you hear the sound of the flute, the lyre, and the harp, all y'all need to bow down and worship my statue, right? But then after they did it, and these was Hebrews, they was too scared to stand up with boldness like the 3 Hebrew boys did. They got thrown into the fiery furnace. But you got to remember, Nebuchadnezzar, he kind of had this secret thing for y'all, where even before he even went to take Israel captive, he refused to go because he knew those was Yahuwah's people and he didn't want that kind of smoke, right? But Yahuwah was pushing him on to do it. As we read, Yahuwah kept nudging him on. King Nebuchadnezzar was casting all kind of lots. He was reading crystal balls, shaking up the 8-ball. Okay, so should I go to Rome and Assyria or go to Jerusalem? Jerusalem. Rome and Assyria or Jerusalem? Jerusalem. Oh, no, that's broken. We want to destroy Rome and Assyria, or should we go destroy Jerusalem? God of the Hebrews, should I go destroy Rome and Assyria as they need it, or go destroy your people? Go destroy my people, Jerusalem, right? Listen, so sometimes when y'all hear people say Yahuwah moved them to do something, I can almost, I ain't gonna say I can almost, but sometimes they're telling the truth. Even if what they have done, it would seem to be contrary to what Yahuwah would do in our own understanding, because it seemed like they did something wicked. How could you say that Yahuwah told you to go do something so wicked? Because he was probably handing his disobedient people over to this wickedness, right? And that's never been more clear to me than what I know about the 8-ball. I don't play around with any of the 8-balls. Uncle JB. Yeah. I don't play around with none of them. But a lot of times I've come to notice, and I began to hold my mouth on some stuff as I see some things transpire, even in my day, even in current days, when people say, and I kind of look at, let me step back. What am I missing? Father, you really speaking? Because you've been kind of quiet. Let me just look and see. Oh, maybe you did tell them to go do that, because it caused this whole situation to go right here. Same thing with King Nebuchadnezzar. Yahuwah truly indeed told a heathen king to come after his people, because what was his people doing? He was constantly talking to his people. Y'all get this right. Stop doing this. Stop doing this. He said, because if you don't, I'm going to bring a heathen king in here, and he's going to disrupt all of this, and then you're going to go into captivity. I really don't want that. Yahuwah is constantly being long-suffering, forgiving. If you would just come to me, stop what you're doing, I help get you cleaned up. But I can't allow this to continue to go on, right? I can't continue to tear my house down. Y'all will have to go sooner or later. I would much rather for y'all stay. We'll get this together. We'll work this out. We can stay. We'll make this better than before. But if not, you're just going to continue being rebellious. Now, listen, I got to call reinforcements to come get you out of here, because you're not going to leave of your own free will. So I got to come get them and drag you out the house, right? And that's what that's what Yahuwah commissioned King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, to do. And when King Nebuchadnezzar was on assignment from Yahuwah, Yahuwah called the heathen king, King Nebuchadnezzar, his servant, right? The King Nebuchadnezzar, he was fighting against it, but he was just, listen here, look, I don't want no smoke with you. But Yahuwah even blessed him in the process, and even when he took them, King Nebuchadnezzar, he was good to Yahuwah's prophets, right? Because he didn't want no smoke. He was just, look, I'm gonna do it because Yahuwah forced me to do it. So I know you his prophets, and y'all keep this. So I'm gonna keep y'all. Make sure y'all take care of Daniel. Take care of them. Take care of Jeremiah. Don't take care of Isaiah. Take care. Don't y'all lay your hands on them, right? They knew what was up. So with them understanding all this, all them people, bring it back to what I was saying about everybody that King Nebuchadnezzar told to bow, the Hebrews that he told to bow and worship his image. After they had bowed, King Nebuchadnezzar, also knowing what Yahuwah's commandments say and what his people should do, and this was a big no-no for them, and they did it. And the only 3 that had enough boldness, well, 4, but Yahuwah sent him away. But the only 3 that had enough strength or enough balls to stand up against the king and say, King, and everything else will obey you. But in this matter, bowing to other gods, you're going to cause us to sin against our God, which that's a big no-no, and we will not do this. We'll take the fire for 400 Alex instead of, we'd rather fall into the hands of Yah than we'd rather fall into the hands of angry man instead of into the hands of Yah. So you going on, burn us up, King. Burn us up, O King. Because we got enough faith that Yah will come save us. And even if we don't, let it be known unto you this day, we will not bow to your filthy image. Right? So this is what happened. King Nebuchadnezzar knew all of that. And so now, after all of this has transpired, he goes back and he addresses all the Hebrews that bowed to his image, right? Listen. Hold on. Let me go back. When Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were saved from death, Nebuchadnezzar thus addressed the other Hebrews, those who had yielded to obedience to his command concerning the worship of the idol. You know that your God can help and save. Nevertheless, you paid worship to an idol, which is incapable of doing anything. This proves that as you have destroyed your own land by your wicked deeds, so you are now trying to destroy my land with your iniquity. Forthwith he commanded that they all be executed, 60,000 in number. 20 years passed, and Ezekiel was vouchsafed the vision which Yahuah bade him to repair the valley of Dura, where Nebuchadnezzar had set up his idol and had massacred the host of the Hebrews. Here Yahuah showed him the dry bones of the slain with the question, can I revive these bones? Ezekiel's answer was evasive, and as a punishment for his little faith, he had to end his days in Babylon and was not granted. I thought it threw it off. Sorry. Okay. Hold on. That's not for us, Pooh.
It is.
Okay, we'll wait for the package then. Here Yahuah showed him the dry bones of the slain with the question, can I revive these bones? Ezekiel's answer was evasive, and as a punishment for his little faith, he had to end his days in Babylon and was not granted even burial in the soil of Palestine, which we know Palestine is not the Palestine today. Is probably a little portion of it, but not all of it, as they done chopped up all of Africa, right? Yahuah then dropped the dew of heaven upon the dry bones, and sinews were upon them, and flesh came up, and skin covered them above. At the same time, Yahuah sent forth winds to the four corners of the earth, which unlocked the treasure of the house of souls, and bore its own soul to each body. All came to life except one man, who, as Yahuah explained to the prophet, was excluded from the resurrection because he was a usurer. In spite of the marvelous miracle performed from them, the men thus restored to life wept because they feared they would have no share at the end of time in the resurrection of the whole of Israel. But the prophet assured them in the name of Yahuah that their portion and all that had been promised to Israel should in no wise be diminished. Where we at? Okay, let's pause right here since we have 57 minutes, y'all. Okay, we'll pause right here, and then we'll pick this up tomorrow since we already at 57 minutes, and I think this is going to take us over our hour mark today. So we'll pause right here. So that was, we picked up in the Legends of the Jews with Ezekiel reviving the dead, page 480 all the way to page 481. Okay, somebody asked about what I was reading from. Footsteps for Jesus Christ bride. Wait a minute, Pooh. We're reading from the Legends of the Jews, and I explained in a few books where this book came from. It's actually, this book was published in 1909, but it's a compilation of older manuscripts and scrolls that a rabbi had access to that not a lot of people have access to. So with permission and going through, because different nations have some of the scrolls and some of the same stories. So what he did in his travels and his studying and his research, the different nations that he had traveled to who had portions of history from Israel, the portions that they had that were alike, where they all had the same story, that it all seemed to flow the same, that was everything that he took and he put in here, which gives some of the, stop it, Bella, which gives some of the expanded story from the Bible, the portions that were not canonized. Now, this is not everything, but this is what the portion that was in pretty much all of those nations that everybody, yes, this is true accounts history. This is all the same. So all of the like stuff he took and compiled to give us more detail of what the canonized version of the Bible gives us. So when Constantine and them canonized some of the letters and slapped the name on it, the Holy Bible, and kind of pushed it out to the nations, it wasn't everything. It's actually really a summary of the bigger story, right? But the summary is good enough to kind of, it'll return you to Yah. But as you begin to read it and study it and like really begin to take it in, you realize, like just from reading it multiple times, you will realize that there's missing information. Like that's just going to come up. Wait a minute. Okay, so all they are referring to different things. Where is this? And it causes you to start searching, right? And they're there. Some things are a lot more accessible than they used to be in the past, but it's all kind of references and everything and where he pulled them from. So all that stuff is available. Like I always do, if you want to take a look at it, I always post, well, since we've been reading it, I'll post in the description box if you're here on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook, also the description box. I post where if you want to read it online, there's a link for you. If you want to listen to it on YouTube, there's a few different readings, but the clearest reading that I found and the voice that I could stand to listen to, I also share that so you can listen to it on YouTube, but you can also purchase it from Amazon like I did. I didn't give you a link where I get paid. I don't receive anything. I gave you the same link where I purchased my copy from. It's 4 volumes, and they actually have 2. They have this, and they also have another little thick manual that gives you all of the resources, the historical data points and everything, all the data. So if you're a research head, you may want to get that too, because it gives you all the different places and the different nations where they pull stuff from. The scrolls is when I say it's about this thick, it's about this thick, right? And it gives verification on where everything that's in here, where each story was found, all of that. So I got that too. I'm not going to read a reference manual to y'all because it would sound like blah, 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 yep, blah, 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 wonk, wonk, wonk. That's what it would sound like to most people. So that's what I use in my personal study. But it is there for those who want to go and even verify this. Just when you see this pop up, you should also see that reference manual pop up as well. So if you want to verify, get it. I go and I take great strides to verify everything, especially if I'm reading it out. If I've read something that I find out later, oh, wait a minute, guys, I think we might have made a mistake. Maybe not, but I'm kind of leery because of this. So I just wanted to let you know just in case. So you can kind of check behind me while I'm doing some further checking, right? Because I don't want to lead anybody astray. But the information that Yahuah is making available to his people, why not? It only enriches our study, and our understanding. Not that you have to have it, because you really don't. Most people don't. Most people won't. And that's okay, right? But for those people who just need a little bit more and they want to really enrich their relationship with the Most Holy and really understand the plight of his people and what's really going on in the world, these things are, I think they're very good to have, right? And it also, what I've noticed, it gives you another level of compassion for his people, and not just his people, but also the other nations whom he has been long suffering with, who have destroyed his people, right? Because Yahuah said he doesn't take joy in destroying the wicked, right? He desires that all men repent and come to him, even those who have destroyed his people. Now there may be some you might get your tail tore off, you get your butt spanked for some stuff you did, but he desires that you would just get it together, right? Just be a good, decent human being while you walk in this earth. Help other people, right? It simply comes down to that, right? Love Yahuah, love yourself, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Well, it really comes down to that. It really does when you break it all down. And that's what Yahuah teaches us. It kind of summed it up for you in the New Testament, but I believe going through the Old Testament, actually going through the study materials, through the actual book, and because the New Testament is kind of like Cliff Notes, you get a deeper understanding. Compassion grows when you take the time to actually study. You know how some people just wait to the last moment, just give me the notes. What you got? Just give me the notes. Let me study off the notes. But you can tell those do much better when they actually go and do the required reading, right? You can see those are the ones who can actually engage in conversation with the teacher. Okay, how many read the syllabus? Oh, I read the syllabus, and I also read the first 3 weeks of work. So can we, wait a minute, we got a star student in the class. Hold on, everybody looking at like, tripping. Everybody scrolling on their phone. What? Give me your notes when you're done. And that's how most people like, give me your notes when you're done. When you got some of the ones, it's like, oh, I need the syllabus. Oh, and the required readings too. The extra ones. Oh, the recommend. Oh, yes, I got to get all those too. I'm kind of like one of them people. I ain't going to do it. I'm going to try not to be aggy. But quietly, what resources? You might see me scrolling on my phone and it look like I'm texting, but I'm texting down what the teacher's saying. I'm like, okay, boom, boom, got to get that. What else you said? Okay, required reading, boom, 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 boom. Okay, right, because I've been in that place where it's like, what they say and what they talking about, and I don't like being in that place. I want to be in a place where I can actually engage in meaningful conversation and not just be attacking somebody because I don't agree with their views on something, or because they may not have grown to the level, or maybe they may not have as much information as I have, right? So with me knowing that, I'm also able to have compassion on those that may ask ignorant questions, right? But they're not necessarily ignorant questions. Some people just really don't know. And I realize, you know how some people get agitated with you when you ask them questions because they think they're what you trying to say? I don't know what I'm talking about. Some people catch that whole attitude, like you talking to me like I don't know what I'm talking about. But some people really ask you questions because they don't know. So I decided to look at people like, even if it seemed like they're giving me attitude or something, I'm going to treat them like they're really being sincere, like they really want to know, what the answer is to this, right? So I see that when I tend to treat people like that, it diffuses arguments that could possibly pop off and blow up, because I'm going to treat you with respect just like I want you to treat me with respect. And let's talk about this. Your views may not be the same as mine. You may not have the information that I have in mine. I may not have the information that you have. But let's talk, because I could learn something from you. I'm not the type of person like, I know it all. No. What you say? Oh, I ain't come across that. Okay, that you got a point. Yep, and people, they ask some questions that I was like, ooh, thank you for that question. Let me check into that. I'm gonna get back to you. I'm like, finally, that was a darn good question. Why is that? So when y'all ask questions, if I don't know, I'm gonna let y'all look. I don't know, but let me look into it and let me know what you come up with. And I'll let you know what I come up with. So I said all that to say it is a thick reference manual that comes along with this that gives all the resources and everything, right? So, okay. All right. You're welcome, Chrissy. Okay. Which version of the Bible? I was reading from the New Living Translation. Like I switched it every time we started. Like the first time we read from the King James Version. Then we read from the Sefer, which reads like the King James Version, but it replaces the historical names of the people and the lands and stuff. And it also adds in the Apocrypha, a portion of the Apocrypha, what people know as the Apocrypha, that they add in, right? But some of the other things that they didn't add in that are less known books, but nevertheless, it's true history, whatever. But this time we read through the New Living Translation simply because it's more of today's vernacular, so, but I know some people say, oh, you got to stick with the King James Version, but here's what I come to understand over my years of reading through the many different versions. I first of all, I have a special love for the New Living Translation as well as the King James. I was brought up on the King James. When I recite prayers or do prayers, King James is my go-to, right? Because it's kind of the closest to the Hebrew, but although it's still been toyed with a little bit, I understand it. But I said all that to say it really doesn't matter which you read from if you understand how to just do a little bit of light research, right? And everybody has cell phones, electronic Bibles, to where you can download a Strong's Concordance or a Bible app with the Strong's Concordance added in it, where you can click on the word and go back and it'll do the proper etymology for you to give you the proper word as it is in Hebrew. So I try not to make arguments and get on people for whatever version you can comprehend or whatever you can understand. Yahuah will use that with you. Just like he talked to children on their level, he talked to those in the medical field with medical terms. He talked to those in the construction field and the construction terms, because that's what they understand. That's how they think. He talks to you where you're at, and he'll still give you the same interpretation and the same laws and lessons that he give anybody else in any other nation, any other language. However you understand, it's good all the way around. So whichever one you can use that you understand, use that. And use Yah as your guide the entire way through, and you can never go wrong. That's what I want to say about that. Yes, ma'am. Do you have some wisdom you would like to add, oh great King? That's my husband. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing. And get out of here for the day. You shall wait. Okay. All right, y'all. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazirite vow. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, that is it for today. I love y'all, and I will see y'all bright and early tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I give y'all an update about the new moon, if it was spotted around the world last night or not. If not, we'll be watching for it tonight. And hopefully, it's cloudy out here today too. Yeah, if not, hopefully we can see it. But we'll see. I'll let y'all know in the morning. All right, y'all. Peace.